Alright guys, in today's video, I want to talk about a GM that I think is having a really nice offseason. It's very sneaky good in my opinion, and that is the GM of the Raiders, who was hired back in January, John Spytek. But when you look at the Raiders, though, you see a team that was very bad. They were 4-13 last year. Minshew was your best quarterback statistically with 2,000 passing yards. Alexander Madison, not that great on the ground. You had Brock Bowers, though, and that was your huge hit in the draft. He's like already a top 3 tight end in the NFL, in my opinion, and you can make a case for him being one. He's just that good. He was that good of a prospect, and he's been that good in the NFL so far. And the reason I'm so excited about the way this offseason has gone for the Raiders so far is I think we're going to see a really new and revamped offense. And I think the most important thing is there's a vision for the team now, and I think you can kind of see where we're going. But I just want to have the Raiders stats up here just for a moment, just to give you guys a little reference for how bad this team was last year. I mean, for me right now to be honestly a little excited about the Raiders' changes, it honestly means they had to have done a lot, because this was a very, very bad year. Again, Madison, that was kind of your most reliable running back. Receiving wise, of course, you had Devontae Adams, and he was shipped off to New York. But Brock Bowers is far and away your best guy. Myers and Tucker, though, those are two pretty underrated receivers, honestly. And that's why I think when you made your huge move at quarterback this offseason, you can start getting a little bit excited offensively for the Raiders next year. So why am I so excited for the Raiders offense right now and this whole new GM so far? Because not a lot looks different. And while that's true, the biggest pieces look different. When I say biggest pieces, I really just mean quarterback. The Raiders essentially pulled Geno Smith out of thin air. I'm not sure if it was really assumed Geno was going to get traded. I didn't really think he would, and I especially didn't think the Raiders were going to make a move at that. But I love this move for a few different reasons. Number one, you got a third-round pick, you gave a third-round pick for Geno Smith. I think it's about the right price. You didn't really overpay for him. Geno's a very good quarterback. I'm not going to say he's top 5 or even really top 10, but he's probably realistically a top 15 quarterback. And you're going from Gardner Minshew to a top 15 quarterback. It's a really nice move. And the other reason I like this so much is because this quarterback class really isn't that good. I know you have some bigger names like Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders, and Quinn Ewers is in here, but it's just not that great of a class, especially compared to last year when it was really, really good. This isn't really the year to reach on a quarterback. If one falls back to you further on in the draft, yeah, sure, take a young guy, see if he happens to be a piece for you. But I think the worst thing the Raiders could have done would have been to get desperate and take a quarterback way too high, set your team back even further, even though this should be, the new start. You have Pete Carroll there now as head coach. You have the new GM, John Spytek, like I said before. So this really is a fresh start for the Raiders, and I love what they've done so far to really hit their ground running as far as a fresh start goes. Now, you guys can't really read the whiteboard back there, but I do have some grades on how I think some of the biggest pieces on this offense really rank. So I guess I'll grab it because it's just not really, it would be seen. So hopefully you guys can see this okay, but I have Bowers at A+. Again, I think he really is a top 3 tight end in the NFL. I think you can definitely make a case for one. You have Jacoby Myers at B. I think he's a very solid receiver. Doesn't get a ton of respect, but 1,000 yards last year with a pretty bad QB situation going on there. So I like him. And with Geno in there now, I honestly, Myers is a guy to watch to just be super reliable again like last year. But obviously, all the focus offensively is on Bowers. And so I gave Geno an A-. Again, I think Geno's a really, really good quarterback. I know he's not the best in the world, but I do think this is a huge move. It's a nice bridge quarterback who can make you at least be competitive, whereas Minshew or Aiden O'Connell or Desmond Ridder, they couldn't really do that. I gave Geno an A-. I think it's a really, really nice move. I like the way it fits on this offense as well as some other playmakers. And speaking of playmakers, you also signed Raheem Mostert. Again, not the youngest guy in the world, but you're just kind of patching up those spots with proven veterans who can help you compete while you still get the other young pieces you need. I honestly like the vision for this team. Mostert, while he's not young, and he's definitely on the older end, he can still provide you some meaningful minutes, and I do like that move for them. So a backfield of Raheem Mostert and Zaire. What am I talking about? And I gave Trey Tucker, they're supposed to be eyes. Hopefully they don't look like boobs. They're supposed to be eyes. Either way, though, he's a guy to watch. He's a pretty nice deep threat, and I think with Geno in there, he can have a bit of a bigger role in the offense. Now, I think you absolutely still need to go receiver at some point in the draft, and I know you have a lot going on defensively, too. You need to get patched up. But just taking a chance on a guy maybe in like the later rounds or something, it's not a polished receiving core by any means, but I do think there are definitely guys that are able to help you compete at a level much higher than last year. But a lot of that, again, will be in part because of Geno Smith. Not sure how that segment went with me holding the board there, but I just kind of want to have another like little visual because I'm not doing a tier list. But I did want to rank some of these moves because I do think, yeah, Myers is a solid receiver, but you could have said he's like a C plus right now on this team. But then when you bring in Geno, all of a sudden it elevates him because it's a huge upgrade at quarterback. So I want to kind of visualize that for you guys just a little bit. That's how much I honestly value Geno Smith on this team. One thing as well with Geno is that in Seattle, Geno was very good at picking up the blitz and kind of evading sacks and extending plays a little bit, but getting the ball out quick. Whereas I think Sam Darnold going in there, he can't do it as well. And that's why it's not a Seahawks video, but that's why my opinion on that move is a little iffy. For Geno, though, in Las Vegas, because he's good at picking up the blitz, I'm honestly not sure how loved this offensive line is, especially Jackson Powers-Johnson. I know he was a rookie last year. I don't know a whole lot of how he performed, to be honest, so I'll have to look into that as the offseason progresses. Again, we're in March. There's a lot of time for me to kind of get some of these guys down, but I don't really know as far as Powers-Johnson how well he was valued. But regardless, you also signed Alex Kappa, so I understand the Raiders are making moves at the offensive line, trying to strengthen it, getting some depth. It's just, I think for the first time in a while, it seems like the Raiders are trying to compete, and they know that they need to show the fans something because whenever you had whatever his name was, Josh McDaniel as head coach, it was not good. It was just not good. The Derek Carr days, while successful at times, there's very highs, there's very lows. Recently, I think you needed this clean reset. I'm happy it finally happened. And honestly, I think getting Geno Smith as a nice bridge you got before finding your franchise quarterback is probably one of the better moves you could have made at quarterback. Now, this is an offensive video, but again, it is still the GM. I want to mention a few guys on defense. You just kind of threw all the money in the world at Max Crosby. I think it's a great move. You don't let a guy like that walk. I know the Seahawks' original offer to the Raiders was Geno Smith and DK Metcalf for Max Crosby. The Raiders obviously said no. Definitely the right move. You cannot let a leader like that leave the building. So I liked them making sure they, gave him whatever he needed to be happy to stay there in Las Vegas. Also, Jeremy Chin is someone who was in Carolina, and he was really, really good for a time. Then he kind of fell off because the defensive schemes changed a little bit, and he wasn't getting the same minutes. Then he goes to Washington last year, and he was pretty good. And I honestly, all last offseason said Jeremy Chin's a guy to watch because as a Panthers fan, I know just how valuable he could be. He just wasn't used correctly. So if the Raiders can use Jeremy Chin correctly, that is a very nice move for them defensively so far in free agency. Now, of course, you still have a lot of time this offseason. A lot of things can change. That's why I want to get this video out right now because it's early on. The Raiders are still not very good. I mean, overall, they're not a great football team. But I think you can start to kind of see things starting to form a little bit, and you can see John Spytek's vision for this team. I like getting Pete Carroll in there as well. It's a very experienced head coach who can help them a whole lot. But again, the Raiders kind of have my full attention heading into the draft. I want to see what they prioritize, who they like. The Raiders have been one of those teams that have not drafted well recently. They really haven't. So this is a very important draft for them. I think they've had a very sneaky good free agency so far. I'd like to see them carry that over to the draft. But I do think that the Raiders offense specifically, because I know they have holes defensively and they still do offensively, but this is a much better offense than last year. Just, saying it as plain as I possibly can. Again, I think you factor in things like Geno Smith's ability to create plays, to get the ball out quick. Last year he was pretty high with interceptions, I understand, but again, this is someone that can help you win football games, and the Raiders need to win football games. They need to prove to themselves and other free agents, hey, this is a place you want to come to. This is a place we are prioritizing winning now. We are not as dysfunctional, and I do think they are making really nice strides in that. So for me, I'm super excited for the Geno Smith and Brock Bowers connection next year. For all my fans football guys out there, I want to know how high would you be willing to take Brock Bowers? Because, I mean, even if you had Minshew still at quarterback, I feel like this guy's coming off the board pretty quick. So it'll be interesting to see as the offseason progresses. But yeah, a lot of offseason left. If you guys like the video, make sure to subscribe down below. I do a lot of these videos just talking about different moves teams make as far as, in the front office, players on the field. I rank teams and players and do tier lists. We do draft content, although I've kind of slacked a little bit again like last year on it, but I promise you guys a mock draft is coming in the next couple weeks. So thank you guys for watching. I do really appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.